Good morning, everybody. How are you? What day is it? It's Saturday, January 15th, 2022. How are you? It's good to see everybody in the live chat. We've got lots of people already chit-chatting. I have to tell you guys a funny story, but first I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you to this place. Welcome to Wool and Spinning. It is a new year. This is the second show of the year. This is episode 230. 230. And we are back to school. We are sort of, all the things, doing all the things and back into the swing of things. The kids had soccer and swimming lessons last night. We're just kind of trucking along, jumping right back in. There is this part of me that feels like 2021 never really ended. We just kind of kept on going. But I think that's just kind of the way that 2022 started for many of us, Our ICU is absolutely chock-a-block and totally full, very busy, and lots of sick calls because people are sick, and it just kind of felt like it was just kind of went right through to the other side without sort of any sense of newness or restarting or whatever. So I've just decided to just sort of embrace that was how this winter went. So yeah, how is it for you? How have you guys been doing? I hope that you are well. And if you are a new viewer to the podcast, thank you so much for checking out what we do here. We talk mostly about hand spun and hand spinning. I tried to put the two together. And we talk about knitting with our hand spun. We talk a lot about knitting. And we also talk a lot about weaving. That's kind of been a new thing. And thank you so much for being here and for trying it. For those who are returning viewers, thank you so much for continuing to watch the show week in, week out. If you don't mind taking a moment to hit like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that. That helps me to get the show out there and get it into the sort of hands of other people who, like you, who want to talk more about spinning and want to talk all about yarn. Thank you so much, Diana. She says, so glad the live stream is on today. She knows that it's changing and she'll adapt, but for today, yay. Yes, the show will be changing. It will be going back to a weekday. I just can't, we need to carve out some more family time on the weekends because I work on the weekends as well. I'm a critical care nurse, as you guys may have realized with me mentioning about ICU. So just trying to balance all the things, having the kids at home in the blended program that they're in for school. It's going really well. So the chances of us doing it again next year are very high, like 99%. So we just need to start making a few changes because this will be more permanent. We went into this fall sort of with the attitude of experimentation and just sort of seeing how things went and taking it year by year. Honestly, taking it week by week, sometimes even minute by minute, and things have been going really well. Intense, but good. So yeah, it's good to see everybody. So the chat just keeps on going. So the show will be pivoting a little bit and moving to a weekday. And I hope that is still workable for some of you, and for others that you'll still be able to enjoy the show and maybe not type in the live chat, but see the live chat when you're able to view it at your leisure. And to patrons of the community, thank you so much for your ongoing support. You guys make this show possible. You make me having the lights on here possible, and the fact that we do this week in, week out possible. So thank you so much for your ongoing patronage and your ongoing contribution and help. It really makes a big, big, big difference. That said, I was working on some Patreon sort of teaching content just now before the show started. I had about 10 minutes before I needed to get everything organized for this, where I was able to sit at my wheel and actually work on some stuff for February. So that's kind of fun because I have to actually concentrate because I'm counting treadles. So I'm sitting there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wind on, 1, 2, 3. And I was thinking, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the Patreon community. And I'm very, very thankful for all of you. So there was something that I was going to tell you guys about. Oh yes, so this morning the kids were running around. James has soccer, which you guys know. He plays really early on Saturday mornings. And so my mom has been doing these art lessons with the kids. This relates to all of our wool and spinning stuff, so just bear with me. And she's been doing art lessons with them for their art curriculum. And my mom she's an amazing teacher. She was a teacher. She is an artist. She's a BFA. She's a painter. She's a quilter. She's an incredible drawer, and just a very creative person. And she's probably the most creative person that I know. And and I'm not biased when I say that, like she really is really incredible. So she's been doing these art lessons with the kids, but I've also been working on Unit 2 for the OHS, my Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners Master Weaver program. And Unit 2 is all about color and design. So I've been reading and I've been, doing these exercises and I've been thinking about it and I've been talking about it. And I was mentioning to my mom that I was reading about simultaneous contrast. And simultaneous contrast is also called, there's sort of an extension of simultaneous contrast called atmospheric effect. So atmospheric effect is when you look at a photograph, and they use it a lot in advertising, where you have a photograph and you have color and you're able to see color at the front of the photograph, but as your eye travels into so at the foreground there's light and there's color, but as your eye travels back into the photograph behind me, so there's the midground and then there's the background. As your eye travels back sort of into the horizon, so nature photos are really good for seeing this, there's a loss of color as things become grayer and further away, and you can really see it in fog. So you'll see that the brown tree no longer looks brown. It's sort of somewhere in a mid-tone, sometimes a darker gray, or the house that was blue now looks like a lighter gray. The sun starts to look grayish instead of its brilliant red or brilliant yellow as it comes up. So you start to see these effects in advertising. So we have a very, very heavy fog here this morning, and I know people in the chat were talking about there's tsunami warning that has been sent out for the Pacific. Right along the Pacific coast. I'm sure that Yuki, you Clulet, and Tofino are under Tofino as well. Under Tofino. You Clulet and Tofino are probably under tsunami warnings as well. I noticed that I don't think Kelly's here this morning, so she can't tell us, but Alicia, getting all tongue-tied, Alicia was saying that they're in Whidbey Island in Washington. They're under tsunami warnings. So just this wind and this fog and this weird weather that we're having in the Pacific Northwest for the last 10 months or so. And so the kids were running around this morning and they're like, it's atmospheric effect. Look down the road. It's atmospheric effect. And I just thought, nailed it. They're getting it. It was really, really cool. So, and then they were looking in their books, and of course they were looking at, and of course children's books are perfect for looking at contrast of hue. So contrast of hue can sometimes be interpreted as just color. Lots of color and sort of the contrast of all those colors, but contrast of hue is actually the primary color. So looking at sort of very like preschool art is full of this, red, yellow, and blue. A photo that's just red, yellow, and blue, and those colors just jump out at you. So the kids have been like, this is contrast of hue. It's so funny. So my mom's like, if you're kind of working with these primary colors and you've created this beautiful painting of these really primary colors, how can you make it more interesting? And so talking to them a lot about secondary and tertiary colors, which James is he just gets it. And Nora, you can see her, like, she's just delving in deeper and deeper and playing with all this color. So it's really cool. Gretelyn, because I know I think you've got a BFA as well. I know you teach, you're an artist, and I know Diana, same thing. It's just really, really neat to see the kids embracing this. And my mom taught art for like 40 years. She also taught English and home ec, but art was really her thing. And it's been really fun to see her now sort of turning around and doing that with the kids. It's been really, really cool. So I could wax poetic about that all day because it's just been such a highlight of our week. But I know that we want to get into actual like knitting and spinning. I have a few things to share with you guys. I got a new spindle, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. We won't, I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. I haven't been working on a ton, but I have a finished bobbin of a spin that I've been working on, and I do also have another twill gamp that I pulled off, which I won't talk about a ton. I know not all of you are weavers here. I know most of you, even if you're not a weaver, you're kind of interested. Like, how is it that you make a tutu twill, and what is it that makes our jeans our jeans? Like, just because we have this interest in textiles just in general. But I have something in the works with the weaving portion of the show. I don't want to say any more than that. I'll just kind of drop that little kind of carrot there for you guys. But I'll just kind of show it to you, and we'll just kind of blitz through it. So. And then we've got a ton of community participation. To be honest with you guys, I felt like I was leaving everybody out. So we're just going to have to do it again next week and do another big one next week. I felt like I could have chosen from like 40 or 50 projects. Like, people are posting on the Slack channel. They're posting in the Ravelry group. And I know the Ravelry group isn't as busy as it used to be. I think just Ravelry in general is not as busy as it used to be. The Slack channel is just tick, 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 tick. And honestly, I could just like keep on going. But of course, I have to cut it off somewhere. We have to cut the live stream at some point. And actually, today's kind of an exciting day because our guild is actually having my dear friend Rebecca Lampert on for our guild meeting today, and she's at Santosh Fiber Works. I would highly recommend that you check her out. She's got a beautiful flock of Shetlands in Ontario, and we're inviting her as our guest today at noon because she's in Ontario, and of course, if she presented at our meeting at our regular time at 7 p.m., it would be 10 o'clock for her. So it's a little bit past her bedtime, being running a farm and needing to be up at 4 a.m. every morning. So a little bit too intense for her. So we're doing it on a Saturday. So it's super exciting. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Thank you for sticking with me through all the preamble. I had to share with you guys about the atmospheric effect, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so God, there's absolutely, Diane, you got to get the oatmeal. I just realized I never put the crock pot on to do our oatmeal, so we're not going to have oatmeal ready when I finish podcasting this morning. That's actually really too bad. I'm going to have to run during the community participation credits. I'm going to have to run and turn it on because it takes a while. All right, so yeah, we have oatmeal like every morning, and it was so funny because last night, I have to just tell you guys about this. So we have oatmeal like literally every morning, and we have for years, and it's our favorite thing, and we all just feel really satisfied and filled up, especially Mike and I, and it just gets us through the morning. And so Mike was going on about oatmeal last night, and he was saying how, like, you know, putting peanut butter in it just makes it all the better, and I don't do that, but he does, and so does Nora, and he was going on and on about it. So then this morning I said to him, I'm like, do you want oatmeal this morning? Like, was that, like, were you like waxing poetic because you're sick of it, or are you waxing poetic because you love it? And he looked at me, he's like, it was a love poem to oatmeal. I want oatmeal. I was like, oh, okay, just to be clear. It was so funny. I was like, a love poem to oatmeal. All right, so these are the things that I've been working on. So let's talk about my spindles first. These are still the yarn spindles that I've been, he's a maker, yarn spindles, like it actually is yarn spindles. He's a maker in Maine. I love these spindles. They're really affordably priced as well. So if you're looking to get into support spindling and you're looking for just a lovely spindle that really spins well and that you can get along with without a lot of problem, I would highly recommend checking out his Etsy shop. I think it's yarnspindles.com or yarn spindles, but just yarn spindles. And they have quite a look to them. Like you can definitely tell that these two are related to one another. This one, I've talked about this before. This one doesn't have the metal tip. This one does. I actually prefer this one. If I had a gun to my head and I had to choose between one or the other, I would actually say that I would spin on this one. It's this part, the bottom whorl it's really heavy. It's got a nice weight to it. I think it's just a couple of grams heavier than this one. The metal tip makes this spin really beautifully. It's a fast spindle. It's got a nice feel to it, but for whatever reason, I really like these ones that have that really heavy bottom whirl, and I don't have it within reaching distance. Maybe I do. I lie. I do have it within reaching distance. This is my box. So these are the spindles that I'm working on right now. It doesn't mean that I don't have my other ones ready to go. I've talked about this before, so I don't want to repeat myself a ton, but because I do feel like I repeat myself a lot, but that's okay. I've been spinning this Cormo fleece. So I bought it quite a number of years ago. I think it was like 2016. My friend Liz of Kingdom Fleece and Fiberworks, she processed it for me, and here we are. So I've been sort of spinning through all of my spindles and working with about 3 at a time. I got this idea from my friend Diana. Diana's in the chat today. She blogs at 100milewear.com. She's a dear friend of mine. She works with like 3 or 4 spindles at a time and kind of puts a project on them and just sort of spins through them. When she gets sick of one, she moves on to the next one, and so on. And I just really liked that idea of kind of concentrating on a few at a time, working with them, working through them, and when they're full, I'll either wind them off right away, or I'll just put them aside, and then I'll pick out the next 2 or 3. This one is actually the reason why I love these heavy bottom whirl spindles. And now the maker of this one is just absolutely, he's really well, Mirkwood. Mirkwood, is that right, you guys? Mirkwood. This is his POK, P-O-K spindle. And you can see that you've got this really, really big bottom whirl here. It's as big, oh, sorry, I've got fiber wrapped around. This Cormo is quite, it's sticky, but not in a like sticky lanolin still on it kind of way. It's sticky in the sense that like it just likes to stay, like it's crimpy. It's crimpy. So these 2 bottom whirls, like they're both quite substantial and quite heavy. And these spindles are actually this, I think this one's a couple of grams more, but they're very, very similar in weight. And this one has the metal tip on the bottom. So it's even, it's not, I wouldn't say it's actually any faster. I think it's just equally smooth. It's an equally lovely spindle to spin on. And there was a bat that was sent with the spindle, sort of an oak, one of a kind, from Wild Hair Studio, that I had sort of started to spin up on this. And then I put it aside because of the Cormo fleece. So basically what I'm doing with this Cormo is, and I've talked about this before, is I'm just doing like 10-15 minutes a day and working sort of, trying to get an equal amount of time on each spindle, where I spin a little bit on each, 5 minutes or so on each spindle, and just continuing to fill them up, to work my way through this roving that Liz processed for me. Now this is my new one. So this is another goddess spindle. It's called a goddess spindle. And to get these spindles, you have to belong to the goddesses group on Ravelry. It's literally called Goddesses. And Bristol Cone is the seller. Ms. Pa sells sort of when you get your PayPal invoice. It's Bristol Cone, and this is called a tom-tom. She's been making these tom-toms. They're little gnomes, and so the little gnome tube goes all the way up through, and then you've got this this stamp of this beautiful iridescent snowflake on his beard. You don't know what color you're getting when you order it, so it could be any color. It could be yellow, red. There was a couple that were like different colors of purple, different colors of red, different colors of green. Mine happened to be blue with the iridescent paint. It's really pretty. I love it. And I really wanted to get a second one. I have one already, which I think is actually right here. And actually, unfortunately, you'll see on the tip there, I dropped it a couple of times by accident, and it's kind of wrecked the tip a little bit. So I need to get some just really lightweight sandpaper and just fix the end there. But this is my other one. So they're both kind of Christmas themed, which is kind of fun. It's got the stamp on it as well. The iridescent paint that's inside of it that makes it kind of sparkle. So they kind of match. They're really pretty. And I really like them. They're not super, super fast. They're a little bit slower. This one's a little bit heavier and a little bit bigger. This one's a little bit smaller, so I find this one a little tiny bit faster. Some people really like really fast support spindles. I think it was Laureline that was saying that she really likes those really fast spindles and that fast spin. Other people like a slower spin, and they like that methodical, really slow kind of, sort of, way of sort of spinning. I don't find with these that I get a spin going for very long. Even if I spin it and kind of let it rest in my palm to try to keep it spinning while I draft, I don't find that they go for a really super long time, but they're meditative and really lovely and just kind of, just really enjoyable. I'm totally ignoring chat, and I need to catch up a little bit. Becca says, I love thinking about atmospheric effect. It's what makes the light in all the different places I've lived unique to that place. The light is different. Absolutely, Becca. And it's funny. I'm not actually, so Becca lives in Glasgow in Scotland, and Mike and I have been to Scotland. We've got family in Scotland. We're originally from Scotland. Mike's family is all Scottish, and my family is half Scottish. And it was when we were up, our family is now in and around the area of Inverness, and specifically in Bewley, for those who know Scotland. And it was really interesting being in Scotland and being that far north. Was one of the reasons why when the last time that we went to Yukon, it was those two trips. Well, we've been to Yukon a couple of times, but the trip to Scotland was what helped us to appreciate the light in Yukon. Because growing up and seeing some of the light down here, it's different from when you get further north. And the twilight when we were in and around Inverness and staying with my aunt and uncle, it was the first time that we kind of looked around and were like, oh my goodness, this is true twilight. And then seeing it again in Yukon every time that we've been there at that same time of year, in that sort of May, June time. It was really, it reminded us, gave us really good memories. Some people associate food with where they've traveled. I think Mike and I increasingly associate the light. Mostly because we're generally, when we're traveling and when we're away, especially when we're camping, we're outside. So it's something that you notice. Is it light out at 4 a.m. when the kids can't sleep? Oh, why? Yes, it is. Which is probably why they can't sleep. It's that kind of stuff. All right. Oh, Rebecca, you're so funny. Post-apocalyptic future. Scarcity of resources means only most essential humans allowed to survive. Specialist force to decide which spindle maker is allowed to live. After last week, I dove in and purchased a Russian spindle. That's amazing, Cheryl, which arrived yesterday. Even with my park and draft beginner style, the yarn is not bad. That's amazing. And actually, I think Diana, her wisdom that she shared with me when I first started to really delve into support spindles was really take on the role and put on the hat of learner. Really allow yourself to be a learner again and to be in that role of just that it's not going to be perfect yarn, that you're not on a wheel. It's not intuitive like it was. It's just yarn. And really, really great way of sort of approaching it. And I really appreciated that at that time. Yarn Spindles has a 30% off sale right now for 12 more hours. Brittany, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. If somebody has the link to his Etsy shop, I'm happy for you guys to pop that into the chat so people know all about him. I have to admit, I would love to get a couple more of his spindles one day. The chat about fast and slow spindles was really interesting. I like spindles that keep a spin just because they are easier on my hands. I'm starting to find that too, Diana. Maybe that's why I'm sort of leaning towards these. My other favorite one is the Volchuk Art, and I can't run this one on my palm because of the really because of the point on it. I don't know why I'm having trouble finding the camera today. The point on it is just unbelievable, and you can't run it in your hand, but same thing, this one's, it continues to go for a while. And I found that on my thumb especially, that's very, very helpful. You also don't need a bowl for this one, and you don't need any like kind of surface for this one that is something you need to bring along. Like you don't need a saucer, you don't need a bowl. You can just like do it on your jeans or on the table. That's how sharp this thing is. You just like spin. Ask me how I know. So that's my spindle spinning, and I will continue to work away at that throughout the weeks. I didn't get as much done this past week as I had hoped on my spindles, because I finished my mom's sweater. So let me just pull it forward. I haven't taken photos of it yet. It's really, really difficult to see because of the black. So I'm going to turn it so that it's sort of facing, most of my lights are over here. So then you guys can see it a little tiny bit better. This is the Cat Bells cardigan by Megan Nodeker. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's very straightforward. It's a black cardigan. Like you can't really go wrong. Stockinette stitch for the sleeves. And the way that you adjust your gauge for the sleeves is actually by downsizing your needles, which is really nice. So you've got bigger needles for the body of the cardigan. The whole cardigan is this garter lace. What is that? Oh, a stitch just pulled. I was like, oh no. This hasn't been blocked yet. I'm not sure if I will block it. It's been so damp and cold that I actually might wait and block it in the spring. So I'll give it to my mom now and she can wear it, and then we'll block it in the spring. But basically it's this garter lace throughout the whole body of the cardigan. And then you've got stockinette stitch for the pocket, stockinette for the sleeves. This is the second time that I've made this. For those of you who followed the podcast for a while, you'll know that. I did the medium for my mom. For myself, I did the small. My mom and I are not that different in size. We're the same height. We're the same shoulder. I think her shoulders are actually maybe a little bit smaller than mine. My hips are wider than her. She's more of an apple shape. I'm more of a pear. But like overall, we're very similar in size. And but I like my clothing a little bit more tailored. She likes her clothing a little bit looser. So I did the medium for her. I should say what yarn this is. It's just Valley Yarns Northampton in black. Like it's, you know, it wasn't expensive, but it gave me the effect that I wanted. And for her, it means that it's not quite, you know, it's not hand spun. It's not yarn gold. You know, she can use it and wear it and not feel like, you know, she's going to ruin it. She's an artist. She gets it. She sews. She gets it. But, you know, I just thought it just takes the pressure off a little bit. It also means that I get a sweater out of it for her a little bit more quickly. Because I had knit this before, which is why I was telling you that I had knit it before, I did make one major modification. And if you're making this and you're comfortable doing this, I would highly recommend it. So I'm going to turn this a little bit so that you can actually see the light on the pocket. What I did, so the original pattern is written so that you knit your pockets separately. So you cast on your stitches, knit your pocket, do your ribbing, cast off, and then sew them on. So that's how I did it for the first. And I did that for the first one. And you guys remember, if you are longtime viewers, I really struggled with the seaming at the bottom. And I am not a new knitter. I am an advanced knitter. I can pretty much do whatever. And I really had a tough time getting a nice line across the bottom. It took several tries. When I finally got it, it was fine. A good night's sleep and a cup of coffee helped a lot. But what I did this second time was I didn't do that. I cast on the pockets and I knit them from the top down. So I knit the ribbing and then I knit the body of the pocket and I left these stitches live. And when I got to the length of the body that I wanted, knowing that I needed about 3.5 to 4 more inches below the pocket, I actually did a knit 2 together. So I held the sweater stitches together with the pocket stitches and I did a knit 2 together across, and I did that on both sides, and then I kept on going in pattern. So for that section of stitches, it's just knit 2 together all the way across. And the nice thing is, because of that garter lace pattern, you have that stockinette every other row. So it's on the wrong side. It was really easy to do. I think I actually purled two together, if I'm being honest. Anyhow, it made all the difference with seaming. Because then you seam through these little, you see how when you look at the sweater, there's like holes there because of the garter lace. It's all those yarn overs. So then I just seamed up through the yarn overs. And that's what I had done on my other one. And it creates a, you can't see it because of the black, but it creates a really, really nice line. So that's what I did. So if you're thinking about making this cardigan, I would highly, highly recommend that you think about that and possibly do that if you're comfortable doing that type of a modification. So really, really easy. Yeah, I know. I'm actually quite happy with that, Diane. So she says it's still January and you finished her Christmas present. Congrats. And actually, I would have given it to her yesterday, except you guys. I couldn't justify giving it to her when I was talking to you guys today. I had to show you before I gave it to her, and I also need photos of it. So I'll model it. My mom doesn't love the camera, and trying to get a good photo of my mom is like trying to catch hamsters. It's really, really difficult to get her. So, all the photos, her eyes are either closed or she's not looking at the right, anyways, she's just very awkward. So I'll get it photographed. I'm sure Nora would be willing to take a couple photos, and she's turning into quite the little photographer. And I'll at least have them. I still haven't photographed this. This is my Larch cardigan by Amy Christophers. I haven't actually even photographed this one yet. And I haven't photographed my, what was it called? My French one. Hannah gifted me the pattern, which I so appreciated. I'm actually going to rip it out and I'm going to reknit it. It was Enchanté. I haven't photographed that yet. I haven't photographed cat bells. Yeah, so lots of things that I need to catch up on. I think it's just, I just haven't had a chance. The other thing that I've pulled out of knitting graveyard was my hibernating project, which is my Yustava. So this has been on the needle since the summer. I have really found this cardigan hard to stick with. It's not because it's not a great pattern. The pattern is awesome. There's just a lot of knitting. Every single row you're doing something except for one. And so it's a 4-row repeat, and 3 of the 4 rows you're doing something. And so it's not intense, it's not difficult, it's not something you have to look at if you can knit without looking at your yarn, it's looking at your hands. It's not difficult. It's a lot of knitting. I don't know if it's hard to explain sometimes what that means when you say it's a lot of knitting. There's certain patterns that just feel like a lot of knitting. The stone crop pullover was a lot of knitting. What else has been a lot of knitting? This has been a lot of knitting. For some reason, my Lunenburg has felt like a lot of knitting, and I think it's just because it's around and around and around on small needles. I was thinking about sending it to Brittany. She's already knit it and saying, can you finish this for me? I won't really, Brittany, but I just want it done. I just want the thing. So then I feel like it's a lot of knitting. So let me throw this on my dress form. So Past Rachel, I posted about this on Instagram. Past Rachel was quite smart and finished one of the 2 sleeves. So I was really, really happy about that. So one sleeve is completely finished, and I did pull out the button band. You guys will remember we had a whole conversation about framing and what I wanted the cardigan to look like and all that kind of stuff. And I pulled out the button band, and I'm going to change this angle. I need to rip it out, and I'm going to change it so that it comes down, uses some short rows. Basically the Albini cardigan, because right now it's just 2 right angle E. It's just 2 right angle. So when you put the button band on, it doesn't look smooth. And I don't actually think it'll be that comfortable around my neck, and I certainly wouldn't button it up with that tight, with that right angle there. So I just have to redo that. It's a little bit shorter. I have a ton of yarn. I'm tempted to pull this out and lengthen it. The thought of that kind of makes me cringe, but it would be worth it. This has been so much work, and I have so much yarn. It's heavy. This is the 30% llama. It's a merino llama blend. It's heavy. It's a heavy cardigan. I don't know how warm it'll be. I'm gonna have to report back to you guys. So yeah, past Rachel was brilliant that she finished the sleeves. I do have some worries about how big it's going to be, that it's not going to be big enough, that it's going to be a little bit snug and a little bit small. But I'll sort of see when I get it on, because there's actually a lot of fabric back here. And my dress form, I don't know if other people do this. I'll just ask you about this. For those who have dress forms, I actually keep my dress form about an inch and a half. Yeah, I think an inch and a half, almost 2 inches bigger than I actually am. And I started doing that because I found that when I pulled, when you put stuff on the dress form, it doesn't move like it does on the body. First of all, the red fabric is sticky, and you can put pins in it. It's dressmaking fabric, or like, it's a dressmaking doll. So it's not like your skin where fabric moves properly across you. And even if you put clothing on underneath, it's still not quite the same measurements as it would be if it was actually like underwear, layers, jeans, that kind of stuff. So I've actually started to, so I left my dress form bigger than I actually am. So often I'll look at stuff and I'll be like, oh goodness gracious, this is way too big for me. And then I'll put it on and it fits perfectly. So I don't know if anybody else does that, but I have found that that's worked quite well for me. That was certainly the case with this, because on my dress form, this is snug, but on me, it's actually like perfect. And it feels good when I'm trying to figure out where to put the buttons. It feels good when I button it up, if I can. I might not be able to. So no, that's not right. Button. But on my dress form, I felt like it looked a little bit too tight and a little bit too snug. But then when I actually put it on, it's actually a little bit too big, which is perfect. It just gives me that beautiful amount of ease that I want. So it's funny that we'd be talking about Yukon today, because Brittany's here, but also I'm wearing my Whitehorse shirt that, yes, I bought in Whitehorse. But Zan says I want a dress form, but I could get so much yarn for that money. So I would just wait for a sale. They go on sale all the time. All right, let's go back to our other screen. I don't have a lot to say about this spin. This is a BFL silk. It's Tofino Road Trip. If you guys would like to see what the actual fiber looks like, it's here. This is a 3-ply fractal, so this is the first bobbin, and I finished it. This is the comb top that's spun end to end, so it's the one that's on the far side there, and I spun it quite fine. It's spun on my Lendrum Saxony, which is behind me, and just a worsted, continuous back. This is the original top. And it's funny how the bobbin, you can see which part of the top I ended up at for the end, because it's all of that beautiful yellow, those yellows and greens and golds. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I wasn't sure I was going to get it done, but the wool circle, which is at noon on Monday, so note to self for those who are watching, the wool circle will be telling me what they want to spin next. Do they want me to do my second bobbin? Do they want me to do the division of 2 or the multiple divisions? And we'll go through the sampling for that. So Brittany, Whitehorse is totally amazing. We would totally move there if we could. My mom being here keeps us from uprooting, but I would absolutely move to Whitehorse in a heartbeat. Having lived in Dawson Creek and Prince George and stuff, though, the snow doesn't bother me. Mike's from Ontario, from the snow belt. It doesn't bother him. The energy in Whitehorse is infectious. It's lovely. And most people who live there aren't necessarily from there, so they're really friendly. Whereas other places that you go to aren't necessarily as friendly because everybody is born and raised there and aren't super welcoming of outsiders, which I totally get. So, but Whitehorse is very, very friendly, or at least that's what we found. So let's talk about weaving for just a second, then we're going to go into community participation. So I showed you guys last week my twill gamp. This is for the weaving study group that is being hosted on the School of Sweet Georgia right now. And this was my one from last week that I told you guys about. I had set my 4/8 cotton at 12 ends per inch, and it was a little bit too open. I knew that there was too much drape. It's not going to wear well. This fabric won't wear well, but it's pretty. It's really pretty. The robin's egg blue is really lovely, and it's a good contrast against the white, so you can really see what's happening. So I reslayed, I took my reed and I reslayed at 14 ends per inch, and this is what came off. And this time I did a full gamp. So I did the four threadings, woven trope as writ. So that means that I did, I'll just go through really quickly what my threadings are. So the threading is what goes through your heddles, okay? And that's what gives you your pattern when you lift all of the different shafts on your loom. So this one is straight draw 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. I'm weaving on a 4-shaft loom. The course on the School of Sweet Georgia is written for 4-shaft twills. So it's all you need is 4 shafts. You can even do it on a rigid heddle because you can add that second heddle and do 4-shaft weaving. So these are, you could even, like if you're quite advanced at doing that and have done it a lot, you can totally do it on a rigid heddle. So this is straight draw 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. This is point twill 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4, and it creates that beautiful chevron. This is broken twill 1 2 4 3 1 2 4 3. And then this is bird's eye twill. So this is a bird's eye twill threading, and it, to the untrained eye, me a couple of years ago, you wouldn't have seen any difference between these two, but there's actually a difference because in the bird's eye twill you add one more to one of your points. So it's 1 2 3. Let me see if I can find one here. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1. So you're adding one more up here, that little one. 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 1. So it's a little bit taller. It's just one more pick up compared to the point twill, which is 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 3 2 1. This one is just that one more where you're lengthening that twill just a little bit by adding that one more pick and that one more thread. So super interesting, different to the untrained eye, though they look the same. So that's where you have to like get in there, and for some you need a magnifying glass, and you need to start counting and all the things. So that is what that is. So when you weave trope as writ, then you weave those same patterns. Sorry, my arm was in the way. Then you weave those same patterns up. So then you weave your straight draw one. So now you're actually treadling, your foot treadling is 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Point twill 1 2 3 4 3 2 1. And then broken twill. This is one of my favorites. I love this. 1 2 4 3 1 2 4 3, and it's woven as you've threaded it. As you've threaded it over here, you're weaving broken twill. Bird's eye twill. This is just beautiful. This is bird's eye twill on a point twill threading. It looks like a mock huck lace. I just love it. And then this is your actual bird's eye. And then I did 5 more instead of 4. I did 5 more threadings, 1 2 3 4 5 of my own, of what I wanted to see and what I wanted to do. And so this is undulating twill, M's and W's, rose path, broken twill, and then this is extended reverse twill. So 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1. So you're going up 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 up, down 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 down, all the way through this one. So that's that there. And then what you get is all of these other patterns that just happen on the other threadings. And this is really where you can really start to get into design and figuring out what you like and what you don't like. The interesting thing is the broken twill doesn't change that much on the different treadlings, but you get lots and lots of variation on your point twill, and you get lots of variations on your bird's eye twill, which is really cool. So that is my twill gamp. So now I have to do it again. So for the Guild of Canadian Weavers, if I were to start working toward that, you actually need 4, you need this section of 4, and then you need another 4 sections of your own work. So I did an extra 5th one because I knew that I wouldn't be submitting this, but you need to do 4 sections woven trope as writ, and then 4 sections that are your own. So what I was just playing around with what I might add and what I might submit. So that was what I was doing, just keeping lots of options and ideas in the back of my mind. So yeah. Let's see, I'm just catching up with chat. I know I've been ignoring you guys. I've been woefully preoccupied with telling you all the things. Kristen says, I'm binge watching all the silk content right now. I feel like I've missed so much, but also learning so much. Excited to spin my silk blends now. That's amazing, Kristen. I'm glad. Which Lendrum Saxony is that with the mixed wood? It's pretty. Thank you, Laura. It's the walnut. So it's mixed wood because it's all like different parts of the walnut. So there's some light, there's some dark. So when it's spinning, it sort of, you fall, like your eye tends to follow sort of the lighter color. My mom said it looked weird. I was like, thanks, Mom. So if you want the honest truth about my Saxony, ask my mom. She's like, it looks weird. What else? Oh, Linnea, I miss snowboarding so much. My brother used to compete, and we used to live on the mountain. We lived at Whistler for about 5 years. And my best friend, Amber, she's like, we should go, because she's a skier. We should go. And Felicia's like, yeah, we should go snowboarding. I was like, I'm not even sure I can get off the chairlift anymore. And they both laughed at me, because I was like, no, seriously, like I haven't. So a little bit of a backstory, a little bit about me, something you guys don't know. My best friend from high school, her and I kept, obviously we kept in touch after high school, and we were quite close. And she went to nursing school, same as me. And after the first year, she dropped out, and she decided that she really wanted to do something outside, that being in a hospital and being in that environment for her whole career, that she just felt like she was suffocating. And I kind of couldn't see her as a nurse anyways. I think she was doing it because her mom was a nurse. And she ended up going to be a outdoor guide. So she ended up specializing in heli boarding and heli skiing. And she was working for a resort up in Smithers, British Columbia, for those who know where that is. And she did a 2-year diploma, and she did a lot of river kayaking as well. Anyways, you guys can probably see where this is going. We were 24. I hadn't quite turned 25. I was turning 25 in the June. And in April of that year, and I was getting married in August. So I knew that we were going to get together before the wedding. She was invited to the wedding, and because we were getting married in August, and in April of that year, there was an accident. There was a massive avalanche. It was one of the biggest ones that Smithers has ever had in that particular mountain range. And she died along with one other person in the group that she was guiding with, There was a group of, I think it was 9. Anyways, her and one other gentleman died, but they died so that the other 7 could get out. So they like saved the other 7 people, but in the process lost their own lives. And I have not been on a snowboard ever since. So I would like to get back up on my board. I've got all my gear still. I miss it. I love being in the mountains. But I haven't gotten on my board, and it'll be 15 years in April. So I just gave away my age too. But yeah, I miss being on the mountains, and I miss being at Blackcomb Whistler, and I miss going down to Mount Baker. Mount Baker had the best powder. So what else is going on? You guys are chatting about some other stuff. And Maggie, you had said at the beginning of the show that you felt like the transition from 2021 to 2022, that you had felt that too. I appreciate that others are feeling the same way as me. Is it tracking or sharp cuts in the broken twill threading? So I think it's tracking, Amanda. Really good question. She's asking here in the broken twill. You see how there's these lines, and it goes all the way through the broken twill. And I think it's tracking because I have an 8. I had to use my 8 dent reed for. So I was going to ask, actually. I was going to actually post this in the weaving channel on Slack. You can really see it in here. On my 8 dent reed, I have to thread it for 14 ends per inch. I have to thread it 2221, 2221. And I think that this tracking is from that in the reed. But the interesting thing, so this is the broken twill on the broken twill, and there's this tracking in here. But then when you weave the broken twill on these other threadings, it's not quite as apparent. But then it's back here, but then it's gone, and then it's kind of back here a little bit. So yeah, I would love to have a whole conversation about that. So yeah, thanks you guys. You know what, it is tragic, but there was a lot of good that came out of it. I mean, it's never any, when she was obviously very young, and it was heartbreaking, but there was a lot of really amazing things that came out of some of that after. And I found, there was a group of girls that were all part of that group, and they all got to be really, really close. After I distanced myself, I had a different group of friends. I was getting into all of this. I was doing my master's, but you know, they really banded together with each other, and they really supported each other through. So, and I'm not the only one that has a story like this. There's lots and lots of tragic accidents that happen to young men and women in their late teens and early 20s. We see it all the time in ICU. So, but I'll never heliboard ever. And it was something that I'd always wanted to do, and nope. So yeah, Kim was really special. And oh, Dorothy's asking what are sharp cuts in weaving. So I'll let Amanda talk about that because we are going to go into community participation. Yeah. Have lost, yeah, Jennifer. Anybody that lives in sort of areas where there's a lot of skiing and snowboarding, there is always avalanche response. Yeah. It is life-changing, absolutely. And I think about her all the time. I have to tell you guys, just as we transition, she had written in her journal, I think part of the reason why I have a lot of peace about it, she had written in her journal the night before that she was absolutely, so this is a bit bone-chilling, she was absolutely where she should have been at that moment, and that she was the happiest she'd ever been, and that if her life were to end the next day, that she was at peace with that, because she was doing exactly what she should be doing, and she was exactly where she should be, and she had written that the night before in her journal. So it makes you, I think in some ways it gave a lot of people peace about the fact that she was happy. So all right, Amanda, thank you so much. Sharp cuts happen when the last thread of a group is lowered for the weft. The first thread in the next group are raised, or vice versa. So I was wondering actually if that was what was happening in that broken twill, because you have that broken sequence. I was hoping that we could brainstorm about that. So let's transition to community participation. I'll see you guys on the other side. All right, so I totally just ran and put on our Instant Pot. So if you hear things beeping in the background, it's for our oatmeal. But I could not do it because we won't have breakfast. And I'm getting hungry. So last week I had promised that I would share Claudia's breeding color study, because last week we did that highlight of what people were really proud of in 2021 and what their favorite makes were. Some of it was, there was quilting, there was and sewing, there was yarn, there was knitting, there's lots of stuff. So this week we're kind of back more to what you guys are working on sort of right now. So this is from Claudia. I love this yarn. This is the Breed and Color Study Jacob that we just finished up this study at the end of 2021, and we're starting our new study now, which is on Radnor. There's more information on the Patreon site, and if you're wondering about it, just reach out to me. Ordering and all of that stuff has already happened. I have mine, but it's on the other side of the room, otherwise I would show it to you. But we'll talk about it next week and kind of start to dive into that next study next week. So this is from Claudia. I finally got around to taking pictures of my Breed and Color study. I used one of the separated color kits that I made into Rolags on my hand cards. I spun those on my supported spindles. Then I took the kit that was only the natural colors and spun those in long sections, keeping the white, gray, brown sequence, and putting just a little bit of color in between each natural stripe on my wheel. I applied the two together knowing it was going to give me a crazy barber pole effect, and it actually did. I love this, it looks great. I'm thinking of using it in a striped garment with a few other small amounts of hand spun I have lying around, to be continued. And the little skein on the right is the leftover from my Rolag ply that I chain plied to see what I would create. That one isn't soaked, but it's still quite curly. Sorry, that one isn't soaked and is still quite curly, but I think it would be great for colorwork mitts. Absolutely it would be. Thank you for sharing, Claudia. This is, yeah, I totally agree, Jennifer. I always love the artfulness of the photos as much as the wool and the yarn. Me too. That's why I like looking at it so much. Every time there's stuff on Slack or in the Ravelry group and stuff, I'm always like, ooh, because I want to see how people photograph stuff. This is Spindle Spun Stitches. This is an ongoing spin along in our group. It's basically anybody wanting to, work really intentionally with our spindles and spin yarn with our spindles regularly, not just sort of a cursory, oh yeah, and spindles. And then knitting or weaving with our hand spun that we make from our spindles. So Spindle Spun Stitches kind of encompasses all of the things on our spindles. And actually Mars came up with that of the Hey Brownberry podcast. She came up with that title and that name for that to sort of pivot from Spindle Spun Summer into Spindle Spun Stitches, which would kind of be the ongoing spin along. I was looking at the Ravelry group the other day and trying to just clean it up for 2022. I started a new spindle Zero to Hero for 2022. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I was wondering about the Spindle Spun Stitches hasn't been really super active on Ravelry. It's been really, really busy in the Slack channel. So I'm not going to change that and start a new thread for 2022. We'll just keep the same one going. So that'll kind of stay. But if you see some stuff being unstickied and kind of going down below into the discussion and getting lost, it's because there's a new thread for this year. That's why. So this is from Alex. I'm spinning cotton for the first time and really enjoying it. It's slow progress, but I was wondering if anyone has tips for finishing hand spun cotton, and I'm planning on making a 2-ply. There isn't really anything special you have to do with finishing cotton if it's clean. You want to, set it, hot water, mild soap. You don't want to have any residue left in your cotton yarn, so make sure that you rinse it. And yeah, I was actually wondering, because it's white, are you going to dye it too? So that'll help you to finish your yarn as well, because it'll set it as well. Yeah. This is from Diana. I'm starting to lose my voice. This is from Diana. She's been spinning for Selbu mittens. So these are for her daughter, and she's spinning to match a previous pair that she had made that were too big. So she's done the single, she's wound it into a 2-strand plying ball, and then she's going to ply it on her Magic Craft Rose. And she's doing that because of time, so she can get the yarn done and get it knit. She used 6 spindles for this project. From left to right are the Carry Cherry Bog Oak, the Italian Traditional by Alice Savage, the Curly Maple Cauldron by Woodlands Handcrafts, the Tibetan Style by Silly Salmon. I love mine of that. I've got a Silly Salmon that's the same Tibetan style. I love it. The Spalted Maple by Texas Jeans, and another Carry Cherry. So that's those from left to right. Yeah. Thank you, Diana, for sharing all of that. This is from Eve for our Luxury Fibers Along. She had these, so what ended up happening with this project, this is her current spin. The blue is merino, the white is cashmere, and the orange is actually gold Erie silk. So what ended up happening was she had these row legs, and she was spinning warp and weft for a scarf for her mom for Christmas. And as she was warping and as she was starting to I think she was already weaving. No, she was warping. She realized that she wasn't going to have enough yarn. And so she contacted the maker, and I can't remember who the maker was. It was Frabulous Fibers, maybe. And Dorothy might know. So the beautiful row legs, and she ran out. And so then she had asked the maker if she had any more of those row legs, and she said, I don't, but I have the fuzzy bits at the end of the blending board, the sort of the ends that I don't sell. And so Eve was like, I'll take them. So she drum carded them all up, and she's spinning more weft yarn so that she's going to do a header and then a header at the other end of the scarf, and that'll kind of finish it off, and she'll have them ready to go. So that's what she's doing. And then long story short, it'll be really beautiful when it's done. This is our Natural Shades Along. This is from Greta. I just have to help Nora here for just a sec. So you can all ogle and look at Greta's yarn and the natural dyeing, because it's just absolutely beautiful. Greta Lynn says, I finished a pair of accessories today for a friend, as this year has been about knitting for some folks that are moving away. This cowl and headband with a twist are knit with hand-spun CVM from Galen's Flock in Colorado. So Galen had been clearing out all of her CVM fleeces, so a whole bunch of us got fleeces from her. I've got 2 halves, which I split with my friend Greta. I wanted low contrast, super neutral colors, which works with the fact that I only had a few lichens to dye with in the first place. Aren't these amazing? That one in the middle is just awesome. The CVM was lovely to work with and is soft enough for around the neck too. I'm finding that my Spark cardigan by Andrea Mowry, it was knit with the CVM in the body. So the main color was the CVM and then the contrast color was the Shetland. And it's totally fine against my arms, around my neck. It's not a problem at all. So I would echo that, Greta Lynn, that it's definitely next to the Skin Soft, and beautiful knitting. This is from Charlotte, also for Natural Fibers Along. I just love this. Can we just all like ogle Charlotte's knitting? When I look at certain people, and their knitting and just the quality of their knitting, it's not just that you can knit. It's also the evenness of your stitches. And part of that is really, really evident when you see cables. Really uneven knitting results in really uneven cables that kind of twist and move. And this is unbelievably even. Like, look at the ribbing and the cabling running along the side. Like, it's just, Charlotte, your knitting is beautiful. I know you've knit your whole life, but it's beautiful. Thank you to Sam and Dorothy, Fellview Fibers in the UK. Thank you. I couldn't remember if it was Frabulous or if it was somebody else, but it's Fellview Fibers, so thank you so much. Good to see you, Diana. I'll see you later today, hopefully. So this is from Charlotte. This was... so the toque is Kelly's Truco. I used the last 10 scraps from the recently completed cardigan and she wet spliced it. She highly recommends the pattern. So Kelly is, you can find her on Ravelry and Lovecraft's Dominion Fleece and Fiberworks. If somebody wants to link the toque pattern, I'm actually tempted to make this toque. I just love it. And then her cardigan that she finished in late December. So since we have one of those rare chilly days, I got to trot out in the new cardigan for its inaugural wearing and grocery shopping. There were no annoying fit issues, sort of forgot I had it on, and the pattern is It Takes a Guild cardigan by Valley Yarns in Valley Yarns, Northampton, which is funny because that's what my mom's cardigan's from. Beautiful, Charlotte, beautiful. I always say Charlotte, but it's Charlotte. I always have to intentionally say the Charlotte. It's beautiful. Her name is just beautiful. This is from Vicky. I love this photo so much. It's very difficult to photograph yarn in snow. So if you guys ever see a photo like this that's done with snow, where the snow is actually white, you have to give that person a high five because it's really awesome. So proud. This is from Vicky. This is the first fiber I prepared from a small bag of washed fleece a few months back. I used my combs for the first time and I sampled it with almost immediately to see what I wanted to spin. My preferred sample was my woolen sample from a Rolag, but continued to think about it. I think my stalling was because I knew deep down that it was my first combed fiber and I wanted to keep it that way. So finally I spun it up and I couldn't be happier. It is Manitoba grown Shetland, 124 yards, 73 grams, 774 yards per pound, worsted prep and worsted spun. 13 wraps per inch, 8 bumps per inch, and 10% elasticity. You've been doing your work there, Vicky. Following along with all of the things on the School of Sweet Georgia and all the stuff that me and Kim teach. So good. I have a bit more in a brown shade and I plan to prep and spin it exactly the same so I can use them in the same project. That's fantastic. Well done, Vicky. I love seeing the growth that many of us have had from watching and interacting with Kim's School of Sweet Georgia course. What's it called? Spinning Intentional Yarns. The nuances of spinning yarn. And it's just been really cool to see everybody's growth. This is our Zero to Hero. So I mentioned this earlier. Zero to Hero is where you go from fiber to yarn to a finished project. It can be woven, knit, crocheted, whatever you want to do. I started a new thread for 2022. It tends to get really big, that thread, and every year it's just nice to start fresh. So even if you've got projects that you've been finishing off that were from last year, don't hesitate to just throw them in the new thread so they don't get lost. because Zero to Hero is ongoing. It doesn't follow a calendar per se. It's just to keep the thread clean. So, and it doesn't have to be a sweater. So this is from Hannah, my first Zero to Hero, the Furs hat by Darren K. Chung, knit in my 3-ply Cormo hand spun. This was such a fun pattern, and I love the result. I love this toque. I had to take it for a walk in the snow today. Beautiful. And I love that she photographed it over her cat. So funny. This is for sample spinning and play. So this is just playing with our hand spun, being playful, embracing the fact that we need more play in our lives. As Gordon Neufeld would say, it's we forget as adults how to play. If you haven't read any of Gordon Neufeld's work, I would highly recommend it. Him and Gabor Mate, another person I would highly recommend, wrote a book called Hold On to Your Kids. Anytime we're struggling, or Mike and I aren't sure what to do, or we're kind of like, we're just not sure how to navigate this, we go back to that book. It's like our parenting Bible. It's been one of those influential books in our lives. We pretty much don't look at anything else, or we go on the Neufeld Institute, which has been it's a rich resource for us. And actually, when we were trying to decide about what we were going to do about school and whether or not we wanted to try something that was a little bit less traditional in terms of a Monday to Friday school program at a traditional school in a brick and mortar, we went to them. And we sort of read everything we could about, like, the pros and cons of all the different things. And we felt really guided. So highly recommend. So play more. That's the moral of the story. This is from Eleanor. I have knit my first hand-spun socks, and I'm surprised by 2 things: how much I learned and how much I like them. They're just fantastic. Yeah. And there was a comment on the Slack channel about her husband saying, like, nobody's going to see them, so who cares if they're not the same? And I was actually really shocked at how closely the colors matched up, and then the body of the sock as it goes up her leg and onto the cuff, like it's perfect. Nobody would ever know there's more green on one than the other. It's fantastic. This is from Crystal. For those who don't like body tattoos or find them a bit grotesque, or just find themselves kind of a bit like they just cringe and they don't necessarily want to see them. It's just on her arms, but I just want to give a warning just in case, because I know some people, it's just not their favorite thing. So just look away, and then I'll let you know when we're on to Dion. So this is from Crystal. I thought this was so cool. For Christmas, my amazing husband got me 2 tattoos. They're every bit as awesome as they were in my head. I think they'll certainly come in handy at the wheel. Anyone else have yarny tats? I don't have any tattoos, so I can't join in. I only have one piercing and then my ears. But I just thought this was fantastic. Like, how cool is that? And actually, what's the most useful is the wraps per inch. I just thought that was awesome. So very, very cool. So for those who had to look away, you can look back now. This is from Dion. This is my Wool Fiend Advent fiber spun up. Dion, this yarn is fantastic. I decided to group the colors together. The first group I put on the hackle, pinks and turquoise, and then the second on the blending board and made row legs. The third I put on the Carter. I was able to make 1 small skein and 2 large ones, all DK weight. All were spun on my Daedalus Sparrow e-wheel and plied on my Starling Mini e-wheel. Beautiful. I think Dion pretty much only spins on her Daedalus wheels, I think. I feel like she has a treadle wheel, but she does most of her spinning on her e-wheels. And it's really fun at the Maker Mornings to see her sitting there with them, because you can always see the wheel just because of how the camera is. And it's really inspiring. So really beautiful. Well done, Dion, and just incredible color. And this is from Lisa. Spun this very pretty merino from Nest Fiber Club. These colors, if anybody is looking for a fiber club to join, Nest Fiber Club, I used to be a member, but I just can't have any more fiber coming in. I canceled all of my fiber clubs, so I don't have Hello Yarn anymore, no more Nest, no more Spunky Eclectic. I just cannot have any more fiber coming into the house. I cannot keep up. But I thought this was so pretty, so I'm gonna have to live vicariously through all of you guys. This is from Amanda. This is her, it's not hand spun, but she used Marie Wallen British Breeds wool. I would just like everybody to ooh and ah over this for a few minutes because this sweater is incredible. Amanda is new to our community. It's not our dear friend Amanda Buckley, it's a different Amanda. And I just, this sweater is just incredible and an immense amount of work. And when my friend Rebecca was here, she's in the live chat, when she was here staying with us back in March of 2019, which feels like a lifetime ago. Remember, Rebecca, how we were going to get together this spring again and have like a big meetup in Maryland this spring? And we were like, oh yeah, the pandemic will be over and we'll be able to travel and blah, blah, blah. And here we are. It feels like a lifetime ago. Anyways, when Rebecca was here, she was wearing one of her, she brought with her and was wearing one of her Marie Wallen colorwork sweaters, and just seeing one of them in real life and how intricate and how much knitting and all that stuff, it's amazing. And there, I can't remember who was working on it. Was it Chris? He was working on spinning for a colorwork sweater, and he was doing all of the colorwork spinning and spinning it all on his spindles. It was going to be sort of a multi-month, year project, and I would love to hear progress, Chris, because these are big undertakings. This isn't hand spun, but still the workmanship, again, the evenness of the knitting, the beauty of the color work, just awesome. And then finally, for a little bit of weaving, this is from Megan. It must be the Scottish jeans, but plaid makes me so happy. So Jenny and I, who's also another active member in our community, her and I were waxing poetic this past week about the fact that we just love plaid. So it must be our Scottish jeans. Yeah. Oh, that's right, Rebecca, sorry. Hers was Alice Starmore, not Marie Wallen, but still. So that is everything for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sort of sticking with me through a bit of a longer show and all of the community participation and just all of the amazing inspiration that we see week to week, day to day. It's actually day to day in our community. You guys are just always a source of inspiration for me, and I love being able to share it with others. So thank you for giving me that opportunity and for allowing me to do that. Let me see. For next week, we will be at the same time. We're still on Saturdays. We've got a couple of more Saturdays that are at the same time, and then in February we'll be pivoting to a weekday live stream. I'm thinking that it'll be at 11 Pacific, but I might do it at 12 Pacific. So 12 noon Pacific is 8 p.m. in the UK, but 11 a.m. Pacific is 7 p.m. in the UK. So if you guys could let me know what works best for those who are overseas, that would be really helpful, because the other option is 10 a.m. So if you guys could just kind of let me know what maybe would work, I'm happy to do 10 a.m., 11 a.m., or 12 p.m. So some help from those who are overseas would be really helpful. And I think that is everything. Yeah. I hope that, yeah, Diane, sticking with you for a longer show. You're so funny. I really hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Have a great rest of your week. I hope that you make lots, and I will see you this time, same place, same time next weekend. And for those who are in the Wool Circle, I will see you at noon Pacific on Monday. Bye, everyone.